Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, whatever time you're watching this. My name is James Smith. I'll be presenting on paper number 125. I'm from Brigham Young University, and this was done originally by a student, Giuseppe Jenkins. It was his master's degree work. And the title of this research is Application of Integrated Project Delivery Practices in Residential Construction. The main question that kind of drives this research is, maybe theoretically drives this research, is where does IPD make sense? There's a lot of research out there that suggests it's useful and benefits very complex types of projects. They're all bringing lots of different expertise together, and the level of complexity is just very high. The question would be, or the benefit, the benefit that IPD brings, it allows, one of the benefits is that it brings all those people together to straighten out their pieces, right, and to align and to create better flow and to improve performance of the team overall. The question is, does IPD make sense in a much more simplified type of a project? That's kind of, again, the theoretical basis here. So a simple type of project, comparatively at least, would be a home in residential construction. So we were looking for examples of IPD in residential construction, and the basic hypothesis is IPD principles can be implemented on residential projects to improve project outcomes for key stakeholders. This was broken down by our researcher into a few research questions as follows: what IPD principles are being applied to residential projects? How are the identified IPD principles being applied? And how do project participants perceive the impact of those applied principles? Quick background, although I think most everybody's familiar with this, people who would be listening to this, but there's a lot of characteristics of a traditional IPD. There's this great discussion about full IPD versus IPD light or IPD-ish. The project that we've selected ends up being on the IPD light or IPD-ish, just because we could not find a full IPD residential project. So the methodology selected for this project is a case study, which is good for this application where there are not a bunch of different examples, a sample to go to check. So limited research to draw on, there's not a history, there's no other literature about residential applications, so this is new territory for IPD application. The graduate student, Giuseppe, he focused on 3 different mixed methods approach, all specific to this one case study. So he did surveys with a group of participants. He also went in and observed their meetings, and then he also interviewed some of the senior personnel on the job. So I'll share the results of each of those things here today with you. The case study itself was a nationally recognized residential general contractor. They do quite a bit of work, but they're focused mostly in the Intermountain West in the United States, and they've been attempting to implement various IPD principles since 2016, and to varying levels and to varying degrees of success according to the interviews. So the residential project, this one in particular that the student went up to observe, is in southern Idaho. It's a decent sized home, about $800,000, 300 square meters with a 7-month construction schedule. There are about 30 trade partners participating, and it came up in the review process, but all of these subs were hired with traditional contracting methods. They didn't use any kind of special IPD contract. There was nothing like that. So traditional contracting, but they were selected with an understanding and a sort of proven track record of collaborative participation. So here was the process that they took, and you kind of start in the middle of this chart, and I'll walk you down through it. This is the way that they approach it. You see, once we get down a few steps, you start in the middle. If you jump to the left side, that steps into a traditional USA home building process. You jump to the right side, and you see the differences of their currently implemented IPD processes. So a homeowner wants to build a home, they find a general contractor, they start to come up with plans. The owner is participating in that plan development, and if you go to the left there, traditional process, you see the plans are completed. In the IPD process, this is where they bring in the primary trade partners to participate. So the general contractor asks key subs to consult on the design. They have a special meeting that's called the Purposes, Objectives, and Goals meeting, where they identify what value is to the owner. This is a very important meeting, according to them, that helps them to preserve that value long-term for the home. And then after that meeting, they go into this kickoff meeting where they invite the trade contractors and trade partners to come and be a part of what they've developed in the Purposes, Objectives, and Goals meeting. So the trade partners come in, participate in that meeting, align as much as they can. They're continuing their feedback on the drawings. They have co-location meetings following that, multiple co-location meetings where the trades all come in and share their insight onto the design. And ultimately, after all of that, we finally have the completed design, bids are finalized, and construction begins. The only other difference from traditional is that following the project, there's a postmortem as well. So that's the process that they follow here. During the co-location meeting itself, you can see in this slide just how they have the room set up. It's just meant to provide a lot of opportunity for people to interact and to be working together. So onto the survey, onto the results. The survey responses were categorized. There were two primary questions, the pluses from the experience and the deltas from the experience. So the first one you're seeing here, the pluses, of course. They were categorized into themes, the 4 themes out to the left there: accountability, communication, finding solutions, and other. I've highlighted in green some key responses. Having the ability in the accountability theme, having the ability to voice issues experienced during the last construction phase helped everyone. I'm skipping to the end. Everyone can perform their tasks with greater efficiency. So these are trade foremen that are giving this feedback. On the communication side, in understanding client needs and desires better to produce a final project people are excited about being a part of. So interesting to kind of highlight the excitement to be a part of. Finding solutions, this has to do with the alignment. I highlighted that, everyone working together to reach the same goal. And then almost maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, but a pretty funny comment I thought in the other, we may have a great set of drawings. So this was before the final drawings were complete, apparently during one of those co-location meetings. And I think it almost comes off with surprise, like it might actually happen. We may actually have a great set of drawings. On the delta side, you have in red a few highlights. Again, the themes on the left hand, time management, the plans and the drawings and follow-up. And probably not a lot of surprising things here, but just a support for what you might expect. So on the time management, they had some issues with getting into so many details with the large group. I guess the delta part to that would have been to contain what details are discussed with what group so that not everybody has to participate in some of those detailed discussions. On the plans and drawings, an up-to-date set of plans for review would be great. A typical problem with iterative drawings and design assist is that keeping up-to-date drawings, so you see that reflected here in this residential example as well. On the follow-up side, just want to make sure we implement everything we talked about, so we want to make sure that it keeps going. And then, of course, more snacks, always a good thing. A couple other key highlights from the survey: 100% found being involved early to be beneficial, and 100% felt this process created an environment where they were able to be more efficient. So two interesting findings, again, primarily from trade foremen on this. On the observations, just a few things to mention. Owner buy-in was really important. The general contractor kind of has to take responsibility for stimulating and facilitating discussion. And having the owner present as much as possible during the meetings allows them to continue to share their vision of what they want in their home. Conclusions: IPD principles can be implemented on residential projects to improve project outcomes for key stakeholders. That's the hypothesis. So the conclusion is that it is possible, it can be done, requires application of principles and supporting practices, and it has a perceived positive impact on quality, efficiency, and cost from all of the participants. So trade partners feel like the process benefits them, they have increased input, and their product is better, and then also limits change orders. And the owners appreciated involvement and alignment and recommended the process to other people as well. So where would you start, if you're interested in doing this, early involvement of team members, encourage and enable collaborative decision-making, having meetings and wellness checks, and then creating an environment of mutual respect and trust, and part of that's financial transparency. Thank you for watching and listening. This is my presentation. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully we get to field some questions later on. Thank you.